An investigation into hostile work environments being conducted by the government because of the actions that the league itself and some of the players have had towards Caitlin Clark.
There is a senator, and I forget his name, who sent a letter to the WNBA requesting an answer as to why Caitlin Clark seems to be receiving unfair treatment from the referees.
The WNBA and Caitlin Clark's civil rights. If the league won't act to protect its superstar from a hostile environment, the government should do so.
Trump could get involved over the treatment of Caitlin Clark on the court.
This can go somewhere that the WNBA cannot afford for it to go.
There's growing controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark and how she's being treated in the WNBA, so much so that it's caught the attention of federal officials. A former White House advisor has publicly called for Congress to investigate claims that Clark's rights are being overlooked by the league. The accusations suggest that she's been subjected to unfair treatment, including targeted aggression and potential discrimination, while WNBA leadership allegedly fails to respond adequately. If this gains traction, it could have major implications for the future of the league.
The Wall Street Journal wrote an article earlier this week kind of explaining Caitlin Clark's civil rights being broken. Now, I'm seeing this, right, as if the Wall Street Journal might have been tipped off, because now Indiana Senator Jim Brown and none other than ESPN sports anchor himself, Stephen A. Smith, has spoken about the WNBA should be under investigation.
Why this is taking on a civil rights angle, a hostile work environment angle, people forget about Candace Wiggins. She got bullied out of the league because she was straight. You have a racial component and you have a sexual preference component to all of this. And I think by and large, a lot of these women don't like the fact that she's white and straight. Well, you think that's not a bit of a civil rights issue? Of course it is.
This situation has moved far beyond routine sports controversy. Allegations are now surfacing that involve possible federal violations, including concerns about sports betting, game integrity, and the treatment of one of the WNBA's most prominent athletes, Caitlin Clark. Some government officials are increasingly vocal about what they see as ongoing physical targeting of Clark during games, behavior they believe is being overlooked by league officials and referees. Congressman Jim Banks has formally reached out to the WNBA, requesting clarity on the situation. As scrutiny grows, there are renewed calls for a comprehensive federal investigation into claims of biased officiating, potential gambling-related conflicts, and broader patterns of discrimination within the league's leadership.
This came out last night. Representative, now Senator Jim Banks from Indiana, wrote a letter to the WNBA asking for answers about what the league is doing to protect Caitlin Clark after the Kennedy Carter cheap shot over a year later, and many more cheap shots with no action. Congress must act to protect CC.
If you believe the WNBA is on the brink of one of the most serious controversies in modern sports, and that Caitlin Clark deserves the support and protection any star athlete should expect, be sure to show your support and share your thoughts in the comments. This developing story has the potential to reshape everything the WNBA has built over the last 27 years. The fact that members of Congress are now calling for a civil rights investigation into a professional sports league says a lot about the severity of these allegations. This goes far beyond inconsistent refereeing or missed fouls. What's being described is a troubling, season-long pattern of targeted behavior and discrimination, one that, according to critics, the league has failed to address, even as it profits from Clark's rising popularity.
Are referees gambling? I want answers to that. Are the players gambling? I want answers to that. In a professional league where the players get paid less than all the other professional leagues, a professional league where the referees get paid less than all the other professional leagues, this is where the money is, folks. Nobody's been paying attention to the WNBA for the last 20 plus years. If they want to gamble underneath the table, this is the league to do it at. If they want to fix games underneath the table, hit some prop bets underneath the table, this is the league where they're going to do it at. WNBA needs to investigate that first and foremost.
There's millions of dollars at stake here and changing hands. You've got gambling and the one thing we're not talking about, the millions upon millions of dollars that's been spent on Caitlin Clark by people that have traveled to try to see her play. By the WNBA, they've advertised her being in these games, this, that, and the other. They've moved arenas and all this. And then Caitlin Clark can't play. She's not able to get on the court because she's had the crap kicked out of her. That's a problem. It's a business problem.
She's box office. And you do have a lot of people that have come across, not everybody, but have come across as resenting it for that, because you have a lot of ladies in the WNBA who rightfully believe they did so much to help build this league that they resent the fact that people want to act like they don't matter nearly as much as she does. What they're forgetting, however, is that audience determines that. Where the audience interest lies, who they're interested in watching, who they're interested in seeing matter.
The former White House official calling for federal involvement in this case isn't some fringe voice chasing headlines. This is someone with a deep understanding of how government investigations operate, and they believe there's substantial cause to explore whether Caitlin Clark's civil rights have been violated. That alone is remarkable. In the U.S., professional sports leagues are typically granted a high degree of independence. Federal oversight is extremely rare and usually only triggered by serious allegations of criminal conduct or systemic legal violations. So the mere fact that a civil rights investigation into the WNBA is even being discussed speaks volumes about how far this situation has escalated and just how seriously it's being taken by those in power.
A senator has already looked into it. You have members of the administration who have thought about it, from what I'm being told, and based on Trump's history with the NFL and him being an obvious sports fan, goes to events and stuff like that, he pays attention to this kind of stuff, and this is the kind of stuff that can feed that base. So I'm saying to the WNBA, I'm just warning them, watch it, because if he gets involved and that base gets involved, it could be a problem.
I mean, we never seen anything like this. We in all the sports, we have never seen anything like this. Now, if this is true, that it is a secret attack, a secret agenda to attack Caitlin Clark, to pretty much not call her fouls, if the UConn Blue thing is happening for real, this is bad. I mean, this is really, really bad for the league. This is bad for the game of basketball. And this is bad for us being American citizens, because we supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the Braves. This ain't freedom what Caitlin Clark is enduring right now. Now, we all proud to be Americans, right? But this ain't the American thing to do.
When government officials begin raising concerns about civil rights violations within a professional sports league, it's a clear sign that the organization has lost control of the narrative and, perhaps more importantly, failed in its fundamental duty to protect its players. The treatment Caitlin Clark has endured during her WNBA tenure appears to go well beyond the boundaries of normal on-court physicality. What's being described amounts to a consistent pattern of targeted aggression, behavior that some argue could be classified as systematic harassment rooted in factors such as her race, visibility, and the economic value she brings to the league. There have been numerous documented instances of Clark being poked in the eye, hit with hard body checks, subjected to flagrant fouls, and physically singled out, often with little or no response from game officials. In some cases, she's even been penalized with technical fouls for reacting to that treatment, adding another layer of controversy to what many are calling a failure of both officiating and league oversight.
Kennedy Carter, the one that started it all. Kennedy Carter's slam into the side of Caitlin Clark while you have the ball over here being waited to be inbounds. She called her a and slammed into the side of her. How about Diamond DeShields? Watch this. Boom. That's not a basketball play. That's not a basketball play. Marina Mabry earlier this year. Right there. There is no basketball being played.
Yeah, it looked like Caitlin got hit.
There is no basketball being played there. I'm sorry. That's bleeping assault. That's what that is. All right. By the way, Tina Charles puts a fist right there, right into Caitlin's back. They got lost in all this.
What we're seeing here doesn't appear to be simple officiating errors or random lapses in judgment. Critics argue this reflects a larger, more coordinated pattern, one that allows opposing players to physically target Caitlin Clark while ensuring that any response from her is met with penalties. This raises serious questions about fairness and accountability within the league. The civil rights concerns become even more pronounced when you factor in the context. Clark's race, her overwhelming popularity with specific fan groups, and the significant financial boost she has brought to the WNBA. The consistency of the aggressive treatment she faces suggests this may go beyond competitive gameplay, potentially pointing to deeper systemic issues. If that's the case, It falls squarely within the kind of discrimination that civil rights laws are meant to address, and could justify further federal scrutiny.
Her teammate, Sophie Cunningham, has said it's been excessive. Rebecca Lobo, our analyst here at ESPN, says every play against is a foul. Dick Vitale, the great Dick Vitale, accused players of being jealous. Gino Auriemma, national champion coach, the Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats at UConn, not her coach. But this man said he has seen her receive treatment that Jordan didn't even receive.
Sophie Cunningham, by the way, made some comments about this too. And she talked about this right here, that when she was in Phoenix in the locker room, they talked about the treatment of Caitlin Clark and how they were going to, be tough on her. And now being on her team and seeing it, I'm like, what are people doing? Actually, it's just too much. It's too much. I'm over it.
Is it incompetence from the officials, or is it purposeful incompetence? Because there's cheddar on the line. Hey, you swallow that whistle, I got a G for you. Hey, you swallow that whistle, I got X for you. I know you only get paid X amount of dollars. I know you want to get paid more.
When a professional sports league permits the repeated targeting of a player, especially when those actions appear to be linked to race or fan demographics, it shifts from being a matter of competitive fairness to a potential civil rights concern. At that point, government involvement is not just appropriate, it may be necessary. Congressman Jim Banks has already made it clear that lawmakers are watching this situation closely. By invoking congressional oversight, he's signaling that the WNBA's handling of Caitlin Clark could merit further scrutiny. As this issue gains national attention, the likelihood of federal intervention grows, especially if the league fails to take swift, meaningful steps to confront what many see as a pattern of systemic mistreatment.
It ain't just sports that I'm doing. I'm doing a lot more than sports. I am not guessing on this. I didn't go on my show and just bring it up for no reason. I happen to know a few people who have said this is something that do not be surprised if President Trump speaks on eventually. And if that man decides that this is something that can feed his base, that can ingratiate himself with that kind of audience that is protective of a Caitlin Clark and what she stands for and what she represents, and they come to a conclusion that they believe she is being unfairly treated, that is going to be a problem for the WNBA.
People from behind the scenes sources have told me as a recent, now I wasn't going to say nothing, that Caitlin Clark agent could possibly allegedly be behind this happening. So all the people that saying her agent ain't doing nothing, I'm here to tell you from what I've been hearing, allegedly her agent is behind this happening.
We're watching a social experiment taking place right now on Caitlin Clark.
The scope of a potential federal investigation into the WNBA may extend well beyond civil rights concerns. Serious questions are emerging about whether issues like gambling, game manipulation, and referee misconduct could be contributing factors in the ongoing targeting of Caitlin Clark. The league presents conditions that, some argue, are especially vulnerable to potential corruption. WNBA players earn significantly less than their counterparts in other professional leagues, while referees are often part-time contractors juggling multiple jobs to stay afloat. Until recently, the league has operated with limited public scrutiny and virtually no oversight from federal agencies or investigative media. That changed with Caitlin Clark's arrival, which has brought an unprecedented level of national attention to the sport. If federal investigators begin examining financial transactions, betting patterns, or private communications involving referees and league personnel, they could uncover deeper systemic issues, possibly revealing gambling-related conspiracies that would eclipse the current controversy in both scale and significance.
Is there actual documentation of players going back and forth talking about taking certain individuals out, targeting certain individuals on teams? That's not going to be hard to discover. Give me your text record. Give me your phone records. Give me access to your emails. They can find it out like that. And if they find something, somebody's in trouble.
Questions that arise in any federal inquiry pose serious threats to the reputation of the WNBA and could uncover deep-rooted corruption within the league's core operations. For instance, is there a possibility that referees might be gambling on games they officiate, potentially influencing calls to sway point spreads or prop bets, especially involving players like Caitlin Clark? Are players involved in schemes to target certain individuals in exchange for money or benefits from betting groups? Furthermore, are league officials aware of such coordinated targeting but choose to overlook it because it benefits their financial interests or business associates? Federal investigators specialize in uncovering these types of issues. However, the WNBA's current leadership appears ill-equipped to handle the intense scrutiny that a congressional probe would bring. The concern over gambling is heightened by the league's partnerships with major sports betting companies and its efforts to promote wagering on games to boost fan engagement and revenue. Should investigators find evidence that referees or players manipulated game outcomes to influence betting, particularly in games featuring Caitlin Clark, who attracts significant betting interest, the league could face criminal charges and risk losing its professional status. The fact that Clark often experiences different officiating standards compared to other players might indicate systematic manipulation aimed at influencing betting lines related to her performance and that of her former team. A federal investigation could subpoena communication records, such as text messages and emails, which might reveal conspiracies among players, referees, and possibly league officials to deliberately target Clark beyond regular competition. If proof emerges that players coordinated their targeting via electronic communications, they could face federal conspiracy charges, jeopardizing their careers. Similarly, referees who manipulate calls to enable targeting or affect betting results could face severe legal consequences. Financial pressures in the WNBA are more acute than in other leagues, given the comparatively low salaries. Many players juggle additional jobs during the off-season just to make ends meet, and referees often supplement their income by officiating college games. These economic challenges create fertile ground for corruption related to gambling, which might explain why targeting Clark has been so pronounced and persistent without significant league intervention. The stakes of a federal investigation are enormous, potentially threatening the league's survival. Discovery of systemic gambling, corruption, civil rights violations, or conspiracies targeting specific players could lead to the WNBA losing its legal authority to operate, facing hefty fines, and seeing key figures, including commissioners, referees, and players, face criminal charges. Major sponsors and broadcast partners would likely sever ties to avoid association with scandal, and the NBA, which currently supports the WNBA financially, might withdraw its backing to protect its own reputation. The timing is particularly challenging, as the WNBA is in the midst of negotiating new TV contracts and planning expansions, which hinge on maintaining a credible image as a legitimate professional league. If federal subpoenas and interviews related to gambling and corruption begin, potential business partners may pull out, and existing sponsors might seek to terminate agreements without penalties, causing serious financial damage even before legal conclusions are reached. Public figures like Stephen A. Smith have urged the WNBA to adopt transparency measures, such as last 2-minute reports, to increase accountability for referees during critical game moments. However, these reforms assume the issues stem from incompetence rather than intentional wrongdoing. A federal investigation's purpose would be to determine whether Clark's systematic targeting is the result of gambling conspiracies, civil rights violations, or mere officiating errors. Should corruption be uncovered, transparency alone would not be sufficient to save the league from prosecution and public distrust. The civil rights dimension adds further gravity. It suggests that Clark's treatment may be influenced by racial bias, particularly given her predominantly white fan base. If investigators conclude that Clark was targeted because of her race, the league could face substantial civil rights lawsuits and penalties far beyond typical sports controversies. Such discrimination against their most popular player would devastate the WNBA's public image and could lead to the loss of sponsors and broadcast deals. Notably, Clark's injury rate increased significantly in her second professional season compared to her college and rookie years, which may reflect the effectiveness of this alleged targeting. If investigations link her injuries directly to systematic targeting allowed or encouraged by the league, the WNBA could face conspiracy charges related to intentional harm to a key player. Medical documentation might provide tangible proof of the physical consequences of this targeting. Disruptive incidents at WNBA games, such as the throwing of green toys and cryptocurrency giveaways, add to the turmoil, suggesting external groups are actively trying to undermine the league's operations and public perception. Although these events may not connect directly to the gambling or civil rights issues, they underscore the league's loss of control over its image and raise questions about its operational competence. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert faces immense pressure to act decisively before federal investigators step in. Her previous dismissive responses to officiating complaints and failure to address systematic targeting may have paved the way for government intervention. Without swift and significant reforms to address civil rights and gambling concerns, the league risks facing subpoenas and criminal charges. The implications of a federal investigation extend beyond the WNBA, potentially setting precedents for oversight of all professional sports leagues regarding player safety, civil rights, and gambling integrity. The NBA, NFL, and MLB are likely watching closely, aware that outcomes here could influence their regulatory landscape. Internationally, the WNBA positions itself as a leader in women's professional sports and gender equality. A federal probe confirming civil rights violations would severely damage this reputation and could lead global sponsors, media partners, and advocacy groups to withdraw their support. The fallout could harm the entire women's sports movement. Such an investigation would involve reviewing thousands of hours of game footage, communication logs, financial records, betting data, and witness testimony. It would be unprecedented in scope and duration, generating sustained negative publicity that could cripple a league reliant on sponsorship and media coverage. Even if no wrongdoing is ultimately found, the damage to the WNBA's reputation and finances could be irreversible. Ironically, Caitlin Clark has been a major positive force for the league, driving viewership and revenue. Yet the league's failure to protect her from alleged targeting and discrimination may lead to federal intervention that undermines all she has helped build. Had consistent player safety policies and officiating standards been enforced from the start of her career, many of these issues might have been avoided.